Welcome to Mitten Music.
Season 4, Raw, Live, and Authentic. Episode 27, with blogger and music industry expert Lori Stratton from the Stratton Setlist.
Mr. Jeff, it's been a while, man.
Not too long.
No, it hasn't been long at all. I see enough of you already.
That's right. You're probably sick of me.
No, I feel like we might need to move houses so we're closer, like next door to each other.
Yeah,
It would just make
there's
everything
a house for
easier.
sale next door, so you can move in.
I know you only live like 2 miles away, but I don't think it's close enough, dude.
Yeah. Well, this is cool. We've got Lori Stratton today joining us. I would call you, Lori. I would call you an industry expert, and you've been covering the music scene in Michigan and music in general for quite a long time. So happy to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to get a chance to chat with you both this evening.
Yeah.
I wanted to reiterate what I was telling Lori before we started. So I'm meeting Lori for the first time right now, but I feel so comfortable with her voice because, as we all know, I do the Sonic Coast at nights, and we have clips of Lori that, she'll talk about the Stratton Setlist and things like that. And I've always talked before or after, so I hear her clips quite often. I'm like, I like Lori's voice. I feel like I know her. And now I finally get to meet her. It's funny. I like it. Makes me feel good.
I feel like that's a common. I feel like that's a common thing. Like our friend John Bomberito, who's also on Sonic Coast. I would hear him on a local Ann Arbor radio station for years, and I felt like I knew him, but I didn't really meet him until 2018. And so, I know that feeling of like hearing their voice and feeling like they're your friend, but you haven't met them.
Yeah.
Another one who is sometimes on Sonic Coast is Mark Sandstead. I felt like I remember him from, I want to say 97.9 WGRD maybe, or KLQ in the 90s or something. And then I think I met him in like 2002 or 3, just like at a thing. He had no idea, but it was a similar thing, right? Yeah.
So Lori, you started the Stratton Setlist 10 years ago?
Yeah, so I started in 2015 because I've always been a music fan and especially liked live music. And my husband and I would go to live concerts a lot around Metro Detroit and in the Midwest and the music festivals. And so at that time, I had been working in corporate communications for a long time. It was getting a little burnt out of that type of work and said, I need to start something about music. So I started the Strat and Setlist from the advice of a former manager I had from a previous job. He always said, Lori, you should start a blog. You do all this music stuff. You go to all these festivals. You go to these concerts. You need to write about this stuff. And I said, okay. So I started writing in August of 2015. I'm almost at the 10th anniversary coming up here in a few weeks.
Wow.
And so I just sort of started writing about shows that I would go to or festivals. And I would also write about songs that I liked by different artists. But I wasn't interviewing local acts until 2017. So the first act I interviewed locally in 2017 was one of your recent guests, Chris DuPont. So I had interviewed him. Yeah. And just found that I really enjoyed chatting with him and writing about, he had done a live album at the time that had come out. And so I was writing about that. And then I just sort of found like, wow, there's a lot of really talented people like in Michigan, like I was only scratching the surface of the local music scene and said, holy cow, there's so many people here. So I just started finding other people to interview, and then those people would share it, and then their friends would contact me, and then it just sort of grew from there up to the point where then I was freelancing for different, Ann Arbor, Michigan-based publications, one of them being Local Spins later on, and then just really found that I was doing well with interviewing a lot of local acts and writing about them, and found that I really enjoyed their music because I kind of come at it from a different perspective than maybe other people do. I'm not a musician, so I'm a music fan first. And so I spend a lot of time listening to lyrics, and I spend a lot of time digesting people's songs and trying to figure out how do I emotionally connect with them and what do they mean to me and how can I interpret that through my writing. And so that's what I've spent a lot of time on the Strat and Setlist doing, is giving that perspective. And then also being a champion for people. So trying to help promote their releases, their shows, and just sort of documenting kind of what's going on the scene and kind of what people are doing.
Yeah. Cool. I love it that you say that you're not a musician and you're a fan of. That's how I feel. I can't play an instrument.
No.
I let my family do that. And yeah, everybody needs a fan, right?
Right. For sure. Yeah. And that's one thing, that's kind of different, is that I just like to kind of give that perspective, because that's the best perspective I can give, because that's the one I had the most experience with. I have short stints of trying to play guitar and alto sax growing up and singing in choir, but I never really did great with the music part myself, but I always found I preferred writing about it and telling people stories who do music. So,
Right. Yeah, I get excited, like I find a new band or a song that I really dig, and I just cannot wait to share it with people. And I might not be able to write eloquently or anything, but I will I will share it with the world for sure,
hey,
one way or
sharing
another.
is important, because
Yeah.
there's so many people putting great music out there these days, and even though it's easier to put things out with the way things are structured for kind of in the online and digital worlds, there's still a lot to hear out there. And so anything we can do to kind of help promote what people are doing or sharing their music is always important from anybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always say put it out there, because people need to hear it. They need to know we have a lot of talent, especially here in Michigan. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
I was just say, how do you go through your week, your month, and maybe discover new things? Or I guess it could be twofold. Maybe discover what you want to write about next, or discovering a new band, artist, song. Like, being a music fan, you're kind of always looking for something new. It's like, you might love stuff you hear, but you it's like the consumption never stops.
Yes, no, it never stops. I have multiple channels I use. So like, it could be a lot of times just following people on social media, especially on Instagram. I find bands are always or artists are always kind of pitching what they have coming out next, whether it's like a national touring act or someone local. So that's one way I kind of track what people are doing. Of course, on Facebook, if people announce that they, have a show coming up, or they're going to release a single or an album, things along those lines. I also listen to a lot of satellite radio. So like Sirius XMU,
Yep.
Alt Nation, the Spectrum are some of my favorite channels that I like listen to and discovered a lot of music over the years. And then there's a lot of like great local radio stuff, like Sonic Coast, of course, plays a lot of stuff.
WYCE.
I mean, WCBN in Ann Arbor. There's so many like freeform stations that do a lot of things to support tons of like independent and Michigan-based music. So that's another option. And then just going to shows and sometimes coming across opening acts that you know are new to. So, and that could be somebody local or someone that's touring. So either way. But there are so many different channels, and it's just sort of like an old habit for me, because I just sort of naturally track all this stuff. It doesn't really feel like an effort. It's just something I'm used to doing.
And have you found that reaching out to whoever you want to interview next, it's been pretty easy to do so?
Oh yeah. Because like most people are happy to get the support and the promotion and any type of word you can spread about what they're doing. So whatever that is, like like I said, a single, an album, a show, some other project they might be involved in. Absolutely. And the one thing is, I feel like there's not enough of us in media to cover to support all the artists. Like there's definitely more of them than there are of us. So like it's not hard to get a lot of requests from people to try to figure out how to balance those out and try to spread it around and try to help everybody in different ways. That's definitely a constant challenge. Like that's why we need more podcasters like you. We need more like people like Sonic Coast hosting radio shows, people writing blogs and articles, and people doing, video interviews and whatever medium you like to use to promote. Like we don't have enough of those. So I'm all for like anybody independent that wants to start something or do things to promote our local music scene, to communicate that, they should do it, because we don't have enough of y'all.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you've been around doing this 10 years. I mean, obviously you've loved music for a long time than that, but what have you seen in those 10 years when covering the scene? What's changed, or what have you seen differently?
That's a good
question.
Well,
I think one of the interesting things I've come across is that despite all the digital releases on streaming, people still like to be able to get a physical copy of someone's music. So that sense has not changed. So whether it's still a CD or vinyl or a cassette tape in some instances, people like to be able to buy something from someone in addition to shirts and other merch that you can get too. But for the actual music, a lot of people want to take something home and they want to be able to buy something at a show, or to buy something from Bandcamp or a website where they can like actually do something to support the artist, So that's one thing I've noticed, is that despite all these streaming platforms and everything that's available, and that's always convenient, and of course it's cheaper to kind of release your music that way. But if someone can get a physical copy of your music, they want to do that, and they want to take it home. And even if they don't have a CD player, they still want to be able to have it in some capacity. So, and I find a lot of the newer or younger bands starting out want vinyl. They want their album on vinyl.
Yep.
They want that experience. And as a kid growing up, I had tons of records growing up. My mom got me into that when I was probably about 11 or 12. And off and on over the years, I've collected tons by local people and all kinds of artists. So I still do. So one of the things I think is important is that people be able to experience that. I grew up in the album generation where we like to hear an entire thing, side A, side B, or 7 inches with an A side and a B side. We want to hear all that. We want to collect that stuff. And so I think people, younger generations, maybe they didn't grow up, they grew up with CDs, but not vinyl necessarily. They want to be able to recreate that experience and enjoy that. And I'm excited to see that trend has come back, despite in the age of streaming, that people like. I'm totally a physical, tangible media person. Like, I want a hard copy book. I want a real album. I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. I want to experience it. Because I'm all about tangibility. So
I think we're very similar. Jeff and I, like, the first thing we go to a show, we're like, do they got any vinyl, you think? Absolutely. I don't want to ask them in case they don't, because I don't see any out, but I really want to know if they got something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I love liner notes. As a writer, I want to read, all kinds of backgrounds. I want to say who played on whose album and how are they connected. And I'm always making connections, whether it's locally or between albums and bands and artists of different eras. I love making the connections, and it feels like there's even more connections and they don't end. It feels infinite, even though it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Kevin Bacon effect,
Absolutely.
Right.
And the longer I've been doing this, is you notice how well connected everybody is in different facets. In some genres you have a lot of overlap, and others, it's in different parts of the state, and just making all those connections at the state level, saying, oh, so-and-so, you played on their album. Oh, you worked at that studio. And then you can just start, again, I love making those connections.
Yeah.
I feel like we've interviewed a couple bands where they really wanted to talk about the bands that they like that are local that they might play shows with, and maybe it's a type of music that, like, I like harder stuff for the most part, right? Sure. So for example, last year Jeff and I went to a show and we saw this band Carbon Decoy. We're like, dang, who are these guys? We were going to see Ficus. I think Ficus and Overdrive Orchestra or something. Yep. And Carbon Decoy opened up, and I was like, who are these guys? And I've probably seen them 3 times since. We've had them on this podcast, but my favorite thing about them is they just wanted to talk about all the bands that they play with and their friends' bands and bands they've met over the time.
That's awesome.
And I had to go back, and I have a list of, I think they dropped the names of almost 20 different bands, and I now listen to about 10 of those. In one of those bands, I had one of their songs was my 3rd most played song last year. A band from Michigan that I've never met before. I was introduced to them by another Michigan band, and I cannot wait to talk to them. And if you were curious, their name is Glass Chimera. So if you
I know who they are. Yeah. I know exactly.
I love them so much. They are my favorite. So I cannot one day get a chance to interview them on our podcast as well. But I love finding music that way. It's so awesome.
And so we had Carbon Decoy. So I'm also on the board of GIG, the Art of Michigan Music. So, like, we had Carbon Decoy played at our inaugural event last year, and their set was on fire. People just and they had a great time. Yeah, absolutely.
I love those guys. They're so cool.
Awesome. So speaking of GIG, Lori, you want to talk a little bit about that, because you guys are going to do another event this year, right?
Yeah. So GIG is a great nonprofit that's run by Chuck and Brenda Marshall, who also publish the Life in Michigan blog, where they cover local music, they cover small businesses, breweries, restaurants, all kinds of cool stuff. And then Chuck also runs the Fans with Bands podcast, where he's interviewed a lot of the same people that I've interviewed on Strat and Setlist off and on over the years, and reaches all kinds of genres. So those two started that recently because Chuck in 2016 had hosted kind of a gig on a smaller level at the Ann Arbor Arts Center, where the point was you would kind of exhibit people who do the visual aspect of things in music, like album covers, concert photography, other types of graphic design like concert posters. And so they did a mini version of this at 2016 at the Ann Arbor Arts Center and had a good turnout. And then kind of years went by, and then just last year, Chuck and Brenda decided to kind of bring this up, but on a bigger scale with 2 of the guys that run Manchester Underground, which is another live music series that does a great job out here in Washtenaw County. So with John Mooneyham and Steve Gerbach, they decided to kind of start to kind of bring gig, but to make it like more of a like multi-day event. So it was a weekend event last November we did in Jackson at a really cool venue called R634. And so we had live music, we had workshops that talked about different music industry aspects. And then we had all these different visual artists, like 25 plus, that we had showcased and exhibited their concert photography, their album covers, their show posters all around the space. And then we had live music, and we had a really good time. And so we did a 3-day event. This year we're kind of going back to a 1-day event because we got really excited about it and kind of got, really aspirational and decided, hey, it was a great experience. We want to kind of go back to 1 day. It will be November 8th coming up this year, and it will be at R634 in Jackson again. It'll be very similar. We'll be showcasing a bunch of different artists. We'll have some workshops. We'll have live music. And then we'll just have chances for networking and things like that. So we definitely want to encourage people to come. We are also doing different fundraisers to kind of help promote gigs. So like we have a fundraiser coming up where we're going to be partnering with Schuler Books, where you can buy a book through Schuler's, whether it's online or in one of their stores, and we can give you a code, and then 20% of the sale will go to support gig. So like we have all kinds of things we're doing to promote that. So hats off to Chuck and Brenda for all the work they put into that organization, into what they do. And it'll be a great event coming up in November.
That's awesome. Yeah.
November 8th. Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff. I'm going to add that to the calendar.
Y'all can join us. We'd love to have you there. So
yeah. It'd be great.
Unless I have something other bigger going on, which is far enough out, I should not have. You're going to get on the calendar first. Sweet. Awesome. Yeah. So Lori, if I could ask, what would be the most exciting thing you've done in the last 10 years, whether that's a specific interview, maybe it was an event you were at that you were doing something at, maybe it was an event you went to, maybe it was a concert, but what's the most exciting thing around all this that you've done in the last 10 years and maybe it doesn't have to be the most exciting thing, one of the most exciting things, because there probably could be several, right?
Yeah, it's hard because I don't know if I can just pick one, because I have done a lot of stuff. So between like covering festivals and, going to people's shows and interviewing tons of artists, it's been, I think one of the most interesting things I did is during the pandemic, I partnered with Grove Studios out of Ypsilanti, and we did like a video podcast where we were interviewing people in the studio, but we had masks and plexiglass. But we also gave, I was kind of new to doing kind of like a video or podcast-ish type interview. And so I was doing a series of those in partnership with Grove Studios. And that was kind of fun because there weren't a lot of options to obviously meet up with people in person, one, and two, there weren't a lot of places for people to play. So the point was we could do the different interviews and with different artists. Like I was doing probably one a month for a while, and we did that for a year or two, and it was great. So we would bring people in, and they could bring their acoustic guitar or their keyboard, and they could play. And we'd give them a chance to play a couple songs. And that part was fun because it was not a great environment at the time, but we had a way to support people and give them some sort of outlet to play, even though it's not the same as going to a live venue and putting on a show, but at least they could perform for somebody, and then we would record the video and stream it on YouTube and some of Grove Studios, other channels like Facebook and things like that. So that was a fun thing to do.
That's
and
cool.
Grove Studios is a great place too. Like Rick and Breck do such a great job running that organization and support a lot of music with their rehearsal and studio space. So that was probably one of the most fun things I do, because I write so much, but to be able to do a podcast or a video interview is a different outlet for me. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have anything super exciting that highlight from our time starting this podcast?
Wow, I didn't expect to get interviewed here today. Right.
I know we ask a lot of questions, and sometimes I never ask you questions.
Oh man,
I think I have mine. I think I thought about it just the last minute. I think it was when we got invited to Fam Grove by the Accidentals.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool.
We talked to the Accidentals. We talked to the Rebel E's. We talked to Low Phase. We got to see them play. And they put us up in a haunted condo for the night. Or was it an abandoned asylum? It was an abandoned asylum.
It was the old state hospital up there in Traverse City. So
yeah,
supposedly haunted at times. Yeah,
supposedly they might have just added that to make me more excited. But it was a freaking riot. That whole 24 hours or however long we were there was awesome.
Well, and those three groups are all fantastic. And I actually just talked to Low Face for the first time, and they are a great group of people. I really
very cool.
Chance to talk to them. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, good people.
Heck yeah.
to answer your question, Ryan, I would say that one was definitely a highlight. I think just anytime we've traveled and gone somewhere, like the first time we traveled and we went to the east side of the state and we went to 20 Front Street, talked to Ava Swiss, and then that next day we went and talked to Haskins and Big B and the actual proof. That was just a lot of fun to get out and get to people's spaces and talk to them in their own environment.
I think that's what that was cool.
I would love to do more of that. But yeah, I would say, anytime we've gotten out and about.
And I like doing Sounds of the Zoo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's different. That's just a little bit different, right? Because we're sitting at a table and we're just welcoming anybody to come walk up to us. Luckily, we had a lot of artists and bands walk up to us. They're like, hey, what are you guys doing? Let's chat. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, and one other thing so for my day job, I work for the Ann Arbor District Library, which is a great organization. And one of the things that's fun, exciting that I've been able to do with them is kind of bring on some different acts to host like free local concerts. So that has been kind of fun because I don't really have a background in like event planning or like talent buying or booking or anything like that. But it's fun to be able to kind of bring different acts in to kind of showcase what they're doing. And then, it's an open audience where anybody can come for free. So it's been fun to do some of those shows over the last couple of years since I've been working at the library. So that kind of gives me a different outlet as well, in addition, outside of writing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, talking about being involved, you're also involved in the Michigan Music Alliance as well, right?
Yes, they're a fantastic organization. I've been with them. It'll be 3 years in August on their board, and they have grown and changed a lot in the 3 years that I've been on. And so we've brought on some great folks from different parts of the state to represent the music scene and what we're doing. And we've run some fun events in the time that I've been on there. We're also planning another event coming up in the fall in Detroit, which we'll probably be announcing at some point soon. So that should be exciting. So yeah, just a great organization, and the support that they've done, they've evolved from kind of starting before the pandemic and then providing a lot of grants to artists during the pandemic when people couldn't, work or perform, and then kind of evolving now to like hosting events and providing, educational resources and professional development opportunities and networking for people. That's going to grow more too as we continue to kind of evolve as an organization.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We went to the Econ Summit this year in Grand Rapids, and that was a great event for educating, like you said, educating people. And there was the aspect of playing live music and all that piece of it in there as well. And it's a good way to expose those musicians to other audiences.
Yeah.
For sure.
We've gotten to know our friend Nikki Jamie Tommy Mommy a little bit
great.
From all that. I might have added on the mommy part, but
he's just killing it as our executive director. He's doing a great job. So
I love that dude. Yeah, he's so good. He's a great guy. I love the man. He's cool.
It's really cool. So Lori, what do you got coming up? You're posting things daily, weekly, monthly, definitely monthly for sure. And there's different times. Anything coming up here in like July or August that get on the horizon?
Yeah, so I usually post at least one article a week, sometimes two. It just depends on what I have going on. So my latest article is just on the Kate High Note Trio and their Stowaways album, which is fantastic. And they're actually doing a show tomorrow night in Ferndale to celebrate the release of that. So that was the latest article that came out is about all of that. I'm also featuring Mike Ward about his new album that's coming out next week. So he'll be my next.
Love Mike Ward.
Mike Ward's a fantastic person and musician. So I'll have him coming up. I have Low Phase coming up about, in turn for their EP and their release show coming up in July. I mean, just all kinds of people. So I pretty much have things scheduled out a couple months at a time. So, and then as people come on, I try to figure out where to fit it, where to fit in folks and try to give coverage to all. It's always, there's so many great people to feature. It's always a matter of trying to figure out where to fit everybody in.
Yeah. That's the challenge, right?
It's like, know, right? With the interviews you do too, of course. So,
Well, and then like you said, if you've got like a release show or an album coming out, like it's timely, so you can fit that in based on that. If it's just a conversation about what's going on, you can fit those in whenever.
Yeah. So like sometimes I have some articles that aren't tied to an event. They just released the album, but maybe they're not doing a show right away, or their show's not for several months, So those can kind of fit in, it's kind of a matter of kind of balancing like what's timely and what can I feature, but that, that isn't tied to an event, things like that.
Yeah.
So Lori, this question kind of comes from my experience. Growing up, local music to me wasn't like a cool jam. It was like, just whoever the good loud rock band was that was popular on the radio. That's what I like. I knew about local music. I knew there were shows, and I stumbled through some, but wasn't reaching out, and that wasn't my go-to. And it took me years to really develop an appreciation that started, and now I just love it. And it's my favorite thing. How did you, growing up, do you have a similar thing, or did you always really dig local music, even from like high school age and stuff?
So pretty much local music's a more recent thing for me. So back when I was growing up, it was more like a lot of the national acts that you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
Because of my parents were big into music. I have an older brother who's always been into music. So like it was a lot of what they played and things I discovered on my own. But really for local music, it really wasn't until about, around, I would say I kind of learned a bit around 2005 when kind of like Ann Arbor's 107.1 was taken off, and they were playing some local music and highlight Michigan-based artists. And that's kind of where I started to learn more about it, and then realized there was actually a huge community of all this, and then especially with social media, that introduced me to a lot. And I started figuring out who some of these people were and kind of following them. And then by 2017, then absolutely I was, immersed in it. And that's mainly what I focus on. So,
yeah. So similar kind of feeling that I have.
Yeah.
Jeff, I was gonna say, Jeff, did you ever
No.
we've talked about
I
that.
caught on to local music, I
a
would
little
say, in
bit.
college.
Yeah.
I saw Domestic Problems for the first time, and Domestic Problems still probably one of my top 10 bands of all time. And that's when I found out about local music a little bit more and really dug it. But I wouldn't say I was real heavy into it until more recently. So,
fair enough.
But that would be the closest thing. I was gonna say, Lori, what's your go-to music? So you talk about your early influences. That's usually your go-to. What is it that you like as far as like a genre?
I listen to all kinds of stuff. So my favorite band growing up was Fleetwood Mac. So I got into them when I was about 10. So like, and my parents played Rumors, and so when Tango of the Night came out in 1987, that did it for me. So like, I just loved that album. And honestly, I credit my love of them for why I'm even doing any of this stuff in the first place. It's because I loved Fleetwood Mac that I got into I started getting into albums, and I dug into their catalog, and I started getting into records, also because of my mom. But and also then I wanted to go to concerts, and I just got more into music because of them. And it made me want to learn more it made me really want to become a music journalist, even though I didn't start until much later in life. But that was one of my go-tos for a long time. And still is. I have to admit, it is a little bit harder for me to listen to them since Christine McVie died, because, they were all my heroes growing up. And so that was tough, so I still try to, but I sometimes I get a little emotional listening to some of those songs. And growing up, I listened to the 90s, it was a lot of alt rock stuff that was, grunge when all that was taking off. And then I would say around 2008, 2009, my brother really wanted to go to Bonnaroo, and that sort of just launched a whole music thing for us. We were into all kinds of indie rock bands of that era, like the National, Band of Horses. I could name a ton of them. My Morning Jacket, just tons of artists that I still follow and track and still see. So I kind of have the stuff I grew up with, the stuff from the aughts and the 2010s, and then new stuff I find now, and then everything local, of course. So I don't really have a favorite one genre. I love all kinds of stuff just because you can learn so much by listening to different types of music and the different artists and what they're trying to communicate and what they're trying to share. So I'm all about okay, I don't, I've been learning more about hip hop. I've been doing that for a couple of years. And so that's something I continue to try to explore more and write about in different capacities. And so that's one example. And then other times I want to explore jazz and opera. So I feel like you can learn something from all these genres and take away from it. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you can just kind of learn from it and appreciate it, because it all adds to the entire experience of supporting the arts.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
We've been wanting to get to know, we've been intentionally thinking about, I don't listen to much hip hop or rap, but a little bit. There is some stuff I do like, but the local Michigan scene of it, I'm slowly hearing names, but Jeff and I are we need to get someone on and just talk to them and have us introduce us to a bunch of new artists that we've never heard in hip hop and rap and stuff.
Yeah. So and out here in Washtenaw County, we have a lot of great artists. We have Tree City, we have Athletic Mike League, we have True Classic, we have tons of folks that are that are supporting individual projects. We have a live music series called The Dojo that they put on once a month at different venues around Washtenaw County they showcase a lot of local hip hop acts, and then they showcase a lot of touring acts that come in too. So like,
interesting.
Yeah, so like Washtenaw County has a great hip hop scene, and of course Detroit does especially.
Yeah.
And I know there's some folks out of Grand Rapids that are doing some great stuff too, from what I hear through Michigan Music Alliance.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them out there that, that totally could be showcased. So, and they just,
Cool.
and they add a whole, and I mean, just, it's been fun exploring and learning about all of these different people and different genres across the state for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I called up and left a message with Eminem the other week, and he just hasn't called me back yet, but I'm sure he'll join us on the show.
It's always worth asking. You never,
right.
It's always worth asking is what I say.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? We get like Madonna or Kid Rock or Eminem.
Always ask is what I say. Always ask whoever
right? Why not?
Talking to, because you never know. So yeah.
Well, like I feel like Billy Strings. I've seen him on like small time shows. Like he just does not care. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to you, whatever.
No, he seems like one of the most approachable people.
Yeah. Right? He's such a cool dude. I recently gotten into Billy. Me and Jeff went and saw him at Van Andel last month. Oh my gosh, that dude just tore it up.
Yeah, we saw him when he came to Pine Knob a couple years ago, and it was just completely sold out. And they had a great time. It was a great show. Just a lot of fun. The crowd was having a good time, and he and all his bandmates were just jamming up there. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They can jam very well.
Sure.
So how can people find your blog, get connected? And I mean, I'm getting, we're receiving these on a daily, weekly basis, your blog and your highlights. What's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, so you can go to stratandsetlist.com, and there's an option to kind of like sign up to get email updates. Every time I publish a post, you'll get an email. So that's one. You can also find me. I have a Facebook page for Strat and Setlist. I have an Instagram account. I'm on Blue Sky now too. And I'm also on X. So and LinkedIn. So I'm on all the platforms, either as me or the Strat and Setlist. So you can find me one way or the other. And I'm usually sharing content across all those in different capacities.
Sweet. Okay. It's great talking with you, Lori. Wealth of knowledge. You've seen the scene. People and the cool thing is all your historical blogs are out there on your website. So if people want to catch up on what they've been missing out on, they can do that too.
Yes, there are 600 plus articles that you can go through if you want to spend the time.
So we can see how you've progressed in your writing over the years as well.
Actually. Yeah. It's just fun to go back. It's just like anybody that releases music. You go back and listen to your early stuff, and you go, "Oh yeah, okay." You see that evolution, and it's kind of nice to have that, because you can always go back and read it,
oh my gosh,
hear it, see it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Our first couple episodes, I'm like, as great as the content wise, they were amazing, but just the quality of like audio, it's we've improved so much.
Oh yeah, and that's the best part, is you kind of learn as you go, because you have to just do it to learn it. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I felt. It's like I have the writing background, but writing about music was new to me, so I just did it and just said, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to see where it goes, and then go.
Cool. And here you are 10 years later.
So
still doing it.
So saying, always, something you want to do it, because you can learn it by doing it, and you'll just get better the more you do it. So
sweet, sure. Well, everybody, keep your eyes and ears open for Lori Stratton in the Stratton Setlist.
Yeah, and you'll see her everywhere. She's involved in everything: Michigan Music Alliance, the gig.
You hear her on the Sonic Coast.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all good stuff.
All right.
Well, thank you for giving us the time, Lori. It was awesome getting to know you a little bit more.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Great to chat with you too. Thanks for your time tonight as well.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
If you like this episode, check out all of our episodes on your favorite streaming platform, or even our website, themittenmusic.com. Or if you want short clips of our episodes, check out our socials. We got Facebook, we have Instagram, we got TikTok, and YouTube. We're all over the social media game. Make sure to check out some live Michigan music or listen on your favorite streaming platform.